My next one is the remastered version of Metallica's Load that came out on Friday, along with an enormous box set.
Have you bought that?
No, I haven't. I don't buy anything Metallica related, to be honest, anymore. So the main reason I want to do this is because I think it is a good talking point, because obviously Load was a very, very pivotal and controversial point in the Metallica career. It came off the back of the Black Album, where they toured that mercilessly for about 4 years. It also came after they
cut their hair.
And they certainly, through the Black Album years, have gone more commercial, and all the fans of Kill 'Em All, Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning and Justice for All have gone, they've sold out. We've got Load.
I love this
Slated
album.
at the time. I also love this album. One question we need to ask at the beginning is this the last great Metallica album?
It depends who you ask, because a lot of people put this as one of their worst and least favourite Metallica albums.
Agree. So at this point, James Hetfield had to change his vocal style. He had done it through the Black Album because he was basically wrecking his voice, and decided to have some vocal lessons, and they wrote Load. I think we should just talk about Load. The remastered version, very, very briefly, is clearer, more clarity, as you'd expect with anything remastered.
So I think that one thing that I've always not struggled with, that's the wrong word. One thing, in my opinion, that Metallica have always been notorious for is poor production.
Yes.
I don't think it's until way later in their career, as in the last probably 3 albums, where their production's been really good.
Yeah.
I think the reworking of this, the remastering of it, to me, made a massive difference.
Yeah.
I don't think you said it made quite as much to you.
Right. The reason it did make a difference to me is by 1996, I'd probably seen Metallica 20 times. And I saw them probably 5 times on the Load tour in the UK. I was a bit obsessed back at that point.
Clearly.
For those who've met me, I do have Metallica tattoos on my upper arms that have been there for decades now. And so, yeah, it meant a lot to me. The Load tour, Cunning Stunts was recorded on it in Dallas, part of that tour. It was a phenomenal tour. And I felt that the Load songs, actually, the ones they picked, fitted really well within the Metallica soundscape as they evolved into the Metallica they became. And then they've evolved more since then. But let's not get into the whole Saint Anger. And
We don't have time.
But I think we should look at Load. Right, first thing about Load is it's an hour and 19 minutes long.
It's too long. That is too long.
Who releases albums that long these days?
But there's a reason why, because this is a bloated album.
It's a very good album, bloated album.
But cut the bloat and it would be infinitely better.
It also stems from the fact that the record company at the time apparently said, we need 2 albums because you are the biggest metal band in the world, not 1. So they ended up writing a whole load more tracks, some of which ended up on Load, some of which ended up on its poor brother or sister, Reload, which I don't rate, to be honest.
Give me fuel, give me fire.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a commercial that, and there's the Memory Remains, and it's got a whole load of very unmemorable stuff on it.
Yeah.
However, Load comes out, they've cut their hair,
Can I just quickly, very briefly talk about their promo shots from this album?
Of course you
because
can.
it's disturbing.
Hammett and Ulrich decided this was a good idea.
Awful. It's like looking outside a weird German S&M club, and they're all very close to each other. But every photo, Het is stood very far away from them, looking in the other direction,
Yes.
going, I have nothing to do with this.
And I think that was very true, which led him to his kind of downfall to being in rehab in the early 2000s and then releasing Saint Anger.
They made me cut my hair and wear weird leather.
So I'm going to write Saint Anger.
And that went well.
It didn't go well. I think you're right. I think we need to remember the time. This is 1996. Metal was being kind of trodden on by grunge.
Yeah.
Underground metal was still strong. That's why certainly the black and death metal scene was starting to thrive at that point. Commercial metal, Metallica kind of took it to a point where it had to be almost destroyed to be rebuilt again.
Yeah.
1996.
I love grunge, I just want to say. I'm a big fan of a lot of grunge bands.
And also, the other important thing to remember, just while you're saying that, is by this point, Metallica had toured mercilessly with Alice in Chains and Corrosion of Conformity, neither of which are thrash bands.
Yes, but you do know what they did with the Alice in Chains one when he didn't turn up and Het went, "Oh," and slapped his arm.
He did.
Not particularly nice, but yes, and I get your point.
However, Het, Jerry Cantrell are very, very good friends. And I know that the Alice in Chains camp and the Metallica camp have always been very close. I know Lane was, went off.
A problem.
Yes. Same with Corrosion and Conformity. So anyway, we got 4 minutes and 48 seconds left. We need to talk about the tracks.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you very, very quickly my feelings on Load. When it kicks in, Ain't My Bitch, 2x4, House of Jack Built, Until It Sleeps, King Nothing, Hero of the Day, I'm on it.
Bangers.
I'm all over
My favourite
it.
track is Until It Sleeps.
My favourite track is Until It Sleeps, and it's the most grunge track on the album.
It's like a Nirvana off-cut.
Live, phenomenal. When it kicks in, that fucking riff, you're like,
Fucking
boom,
brilliant.
we're off.
It's a really well-written song.
Really well-written song.
Can I quickly say something?
You can say whatever you like.
How do you feel about the fact that what Metallica have essentially done here is gone, well, what's selling well at the moment? It's grunge. Let's do some grunge songs.
At the time, I think that's a very interesting creative decision to make, and I think it's probably selling out. 30 years later, looking at the career of Metallica, I say you probably made exactly the right decision.
Absolutely. That's
Because
exactly
you would have
my view.
ended up sounding like, no disrespect to Megadeth, but you could have carried on just being a Megadeth band and just being there or thereabouts all
Well,
the
you'd
time.
have the Black Album 2.0, which would be exponentially worse than the first one.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Yes. Right.
We're on the same wavelength.
So we've got to Hero of the Day, which is the first time they do a track like Hero of the Day, because it's absolutely nothing like One or anything they've done or Nothing Else Matters acoustically before. Hero of the Day, I think, is a great song.
Yep.
We then go into the section of the album where it is bloated. There are songs like Ronnie, like Cure. I don't think they need to be there. Bleeding Me's okay. I remember when this came out, Wasting My Hate, I remember hearing the riff as a younger man and thinking, fuck me, they're playing thrash again. I listen to Wasting My Hate now and I'm like, it's a really cheesy song.
Yes. Yeah.
Mama Said, quick word on that. Het, Christian Scientist parents, obviously decided to do something fairly cathartic, comes from the area of America where country music is big. I quite liked Mama Said because I thought it was honest. I don't particularly like it, the fact that Hetfield's singing it,
Yeah.
but I think it's a decent enough written song.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But it doesn't fit on a Metallica album.
I'd rather have Lanigan singing it.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I know,
It would
I agree.
suit him more.
100%. I mean, if Hetfield had decided to do a Metallica have always had this thing about no side projects. Hetfield should have done a Mama Said side project.
Yes, he should.
And then it would have worked.
Yeah.
Fine, do
I
that.
didn't know that. I didn't know they've always had a thing
They've
about it.
always had it. That's when Jason used to went to do Echo Belly or whatever it's called, Echo Brain.
Yeah.
They all kicked off.
I didn't know that.
No side projects. That's why none of them have ever had one.
Okay.
Till Kirk had one last year where he did a guitar project with the drummer out of, I think, the Mars Volta.
Yeah, but Het was busy having coffee.
I think they've got over that bit by now. Right, just how long we got left? 1 minute and 57. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we've cut out all the fat. Then you get to the end and you have songs like Thorn Within and The Outlaw Torn. The Outlaw Torn is an astonishingly well-written song.
Yeah.
Hetfield sounds fantastic on it. It's his new singing style where he's like, I can't do what I did on Ride the Lightning. Now I've got to be more of a vocalizer.
Yeah.
I think The Outlaw Torn is an astonishingly good song. So essentially, 30 years later, I believe, and the way that they have presented this in an enormous box set with God knows how many live recordings and all sorts of stuff, I think Load is, to me, not musically, but career-wise, one of the most important albums in the Metallica career.
I can't argue with that.
Nothing polarised anybody like Load.
And it still does.
And it still does. St. Anger polarised people because it was shit.
But that doesn't
And even Metallica know that it
That
was
doesn't
shit.
polarise people. No one says that St. Anger is good. Nobody.
So if Load had been recorded by a different band,
it would be probably the best thing they've recorded.
Yeah, and it would be big.
Yeah.
You know, it would have lifted them from wherever to probably quite a high state because it's really well written.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that big fat wobbly chunk in the middle that needs to be turfed out the window.
Yeah, it is. And people did write longer albums back then. However, it has now come out remastered. I went back to it and listened to it and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I other than what we said, I've got nothing else negative. I've always liked it. I've always liked the songwriting in it.
Yeah, and I've also, you know, read a lot of Metallica fans who have changed their tune over the years. And remember, Metallica were hated at this point for 1, cutting their hair off, 2, recording load, and 3, Napster.
What a way to end your 10 minutes.
And they were right on all of it.
No, not it. Just shouting Napster in the microphone.
Tasting Notes with Bryn and Jaff.